So the moment of reckoning gets ever closer, but before the race, before qualifying, we've got 60 more minutes of practice. The final practice session of this 2025 season. Welcome along everyone from Yas Marina, round 24 of 24 races, 58 laps to come on Sunday night. 16 corners, 9 to the left, 7 to the right, 3.28 miles of asphalt, some of which has been resurfaced since last year, and those resurfaced bits are causing the teams just one or two headaches. We'll talk graining in a few moments' time and how that could maybe play into the title-winning permutations this weekend. The tyres exactly the same as they were last year. Soft, medium, hard is C5, C4 and C3. We started off with a front tyre pressure of 23.5 psi. That has gone up by 1 psi overnight. Pirelli have decided they need to bolster those front tyres, and Bernie Collins is alongside me in the commentary box. Has flown in especially for tyre chat tonight. I mean, we didn't talk tyres at all yesterday till you came on site. How are you?
Flown in especially to talk to you and the viewers at home, Crofty, just about tyres, a reaction to that 1 psi change.
Yeah, we got a title on the line, but we'll talk tyres first. Actually, this could be quite crucial for what happens from here on in.
Yeah, it is. You know, the team spent a lot of time yesterday trying to hone in on their setup, get their long run data for the race that's going to be so important to this championship, as we know, tomorrow. And then when you get a little change like that, to us it doesn't sound like a lot. 1 psi, what does it matter? But actually it makes quite a big difference to the balance of the car, particularly because it's only on that front axle, and the teams will have to react and adapt to that overnight. We might see Crofty this morning in P3, so maybe doing a few extra laps just to see the effect that has on the tyre, although we are much hotter track temperature than we will have later on for qualifying.
Track's been resurfaced between turn 1 and turn 4, and Pirelli saying yesterday graining could be a factor here. The tyres sliding over that asphalt, opening up a little bit. And that could push us from what should be a one-stop race to a two-stop race. That might not be good news for McLaren. If you remember back to China, they were struggling. Lando Norris was struggling with graining in exactly the same circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. So like you say, graining is a function of the tyre not gripping the track. And the reason that happens when we get a resurfaced track is there's no rubber down on that resurfacement. Now, here we often see graining on a Friday, and as we go through the weekend, the track gets a bit cleaner, as more of the support races happen, the graining improves. And that's what we should hopefully see this weekend as we go through the weekend. But we don't quite know. There'll be a lot of predictions out there about how clean the track will become lap on lap on lap through these sessions into tomorrow. Again, it'll be a lot of reaction from the pit wall.
Might get cleaner. It's got hotter from FP2. So we were 31 degrees track temperature for FP2. Run round about the time we go qualifying and the race. We're 39 degrees at the moment. There's a bit of haze around Yas Marina, but it is quite warm, and it feels significantly warmer in the air today.
Yeah, it does feel warm. Well, I can't compare to yesterday, so I'll take your word on yesterday.
Much warmer than where you were yesterday.
Much warmer than beautiful Belfast was yesterday, that's for sure. I didn't need my coat as I got off the flight. But that is a function here. That is something that happens between the P1 and P3 sessions into the afternoon sessions. The haze actually might keep the temperature in the air a little bit longer if you think of it like that. But it is going to be hot out there, and that is going to be damaging to the tyres.
So Bernie Collins with us. Nico Rosberg is literally sprinting from the paddock to our commentary box. We're actually stood at the back of the grandstand, pretty much opposite the podium, which now stretches out over the pit lane and has become an excellent podium for an end-of-season celebration for what is the 13th race here in Abu Dhabi that has staged a season finale. And what a season finale in prospect. 3 drivers in contention for the championship. And welcome to our viewers from Sky Sports main event. Joining us on Sky Sports F1 just in time for the lights to go green and this practice session to start. And Bernie Collins alongside me. I'm glad to see, Bernie, the cars are stampeding out of the garages to get onto the track. Oh, no, they're not. No, what's going on? They're all just waiting here. What's going on? There's a title to be decided. Get out there, do some driving.
There definitely is a title to be decided, and you may think that, Crofty, but in many ways they like to wait at the beginning of the session. They probably only going to run 2 sets of soft tyre, limited laps on those, save it for the end, slightly cooler track condition, maybe the best track condition as well.
Ted Kravitz, you have peace and quiet down in the pit lane for a moment.
Except when I start shouting about Formula One. Hello, Crofty. Hello, Bernie. Welcome. Welcome, everybody, to the pit lane. Yes, nobody seems to be in any kind of speed to get going. There's Yuki Tsunoda on the left-hand side as we look at it, as the Red Bull garage. His last weekend, his last FP3, his last qualifying in this car, in this garage, and actually, come the end of Sunday afternoon, his last Formula One race for the time being. Hopefully we'll see him back. And it's speed that I've got on my mind, Crofty, as hallelujah, we see an Aston Martin take to the track. So we will have a car on the circuit. And another Aston Martin. They've been busy boys, Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso, not entirely in the places that they've been told to, but we'll get onto that later. But if you're talking speed, that was what Max Verstappen was after. The car was quite well balanced, apart from the ride, which you can't do anything about. He just needed a bit more speed. Difficult thing to put your finger on, isn't it? Same for Oscar Piastri. Car quite well balanced. Didn't quite get the best out of it on the soft tyre when he went to it. But apart from that, just needs a bit more speed. And this intangible thing that Lando Norris has, even though Crofty, even at the end of the day, after really being in control of Friday here in Abu Dhabi, couldn't bring himself to be particularly happy about it. Such as his mind management, doesn't want to get too far ahead of himself, but he's the one with speed so far. The other two with speed to find.
And talking of speed, Nico Usain Bolt Rosberg has joined us in the commentary box once again, like Anthony Davidson yesterday, not even breaking sweat. I mean, that was, what, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes from paddock to here? Nice one. You've been in training?
Hi, everybody back home as well. It's pretty awesome to be here because this is going to be a thriller. Yeah. And so I'm glad you're all tuned in already, and make sure to tune in tomorrow. It's going to be unbelievable. Yeah, let's do this.
9 years ago, you arrived here at Yas Marina. I didn't see you smiling as much as you have been this morning. That was a tense weekend until the end, right?
Yes, I did try to smile, to at least fake it a little bit. But no, I mean, it's so scary to go into a weekend like that in the situation of Lando. I had exactly the same 12 points ahead. And I had the biggest gladiator breathing down my neck. In Lando's case, it's Max Verstappen. Plus, he has his teammate as well, who's ready to pounce. And I had Lewis Hamilton, obviously. And wow, it's so scary that, because you're like so scared to mess it up. You know, you have your childhood dream that we've been racing towards for 15 years, 20 years in my case. 20 years pursuing this childhood dream of having the chance to be world champion, and you just see it and you know that one small mistake and the dream is gone and you're going to lose this thing. Yeah. And that's just so terrifying. So bad.
So to put this session into context, as we focus on FP3, was this like a bit of a nuisance? Was there much to learn? Did you just want to make sure the car came back in one piece? How did you go about FP3?
But FP3 was kind of like, let's see if I'm still even able to drive a racing car after sleeping only 2 hours, not being able to eat properly. I could only get in my childhood food, which was Frosties.
Seriously?
Everything else wouldn't go down. So pasta wouldn't go, nothing with oats, nothing would go down. Only Frosties, which I hadn't had in like 15 years. That was the only thing that my brain said, I think I could, maybe pregnant women can relate. You know, they think of this one food that they have to eat. That's the only thing that went down. And so, of course, you don't sleep, you don't eat. It's like a massive head mess up spiral. It's so bad. And then get in the car, FP3, and you can feel a little bit dizzy. And you can't drive a racing car when you're dizzy, you know. So your head just keeps on spiraling downwards, saying, "Okay, you're done. You're not gonna be able to do this." And the thing is that Lando is also, like me, a little bit more of the sensitive person, glass half empty person. He's not the Max Verstappen type, which is like, full of massive self-confidence and I'm the greatest in the world. There's those different kind of characters, and I think Lando is definitely a little bit more like I was, and that makes it all the harder.
I think it's incredible having Nico with us, because most of us, the vast majority of us, cannot imagine being in that situation. No. We cannot imagine, in any of our work life, working for 20 years towards this one thing where that's the make or break. Like all of us, we've got decisions that we're trying to make or projects we're working on or whatever, but you can't imagine this one thing that might, at the end of the day, be outside of your control. It might be a reliability thing, it might be a pit stop, it might be all of these things that could your whole life's work. It's incredible to hear him talk about that, because I can't imagine that. I can't imagine that pressure, that feeling.
So hopefully this is like a therapy session for you this weekend, right?
I am so comfortable here with you guys in the commentary booth. I'm so comfortable, you know?
Yeah, you see, whatever happens on Sunday will come back again next year. It'll be exactly the same, not a problem. And then, of course, you went into a race and your teammate, rather handily, backed you completely into the pack, and you spent pretty much the entire race with everyone breathing down your neck, feeling as vulnerable could be.
It was the perfect storm, yeah. Because already, I mean, his strategy was to slow me down so that the others could stay in the race and perhaps pass me in pit stops or whatever. That was obviously his best chance.
That can happen again.
And then by slowing me down halfway through the race, of course, I dropped back as a result of that behind Verstappen, who hadn't stopped yet. And then my engineer, Tony, comes onto the radio and says, Nico, after I'm stuck there for many laps, you're going to have to pass him now, otherwise you might lose the championship. Like, you're going to have to pass Max Verstappen now, otherwise you might... That's not something you want to hear. No. Like, seriously.
Ever.
Ever in your life.
Oh, man.
And so I went for that lunge, and I come through it, wheel on wheel with Max Verstappen, and at the time he was a much more high-risk driver. Yeah. It was 50% that you crash when fighting with him. In those days, 50-50. Thankfully, he left the space, and my foot after that pass on Max was jumping on the throttle pedal from fear so much that I couldn't control the throttle anymore. I'd never experienced that in my life, that the whole leg just vibrates, yeah? And you need to be precise with the throttle pedal.
Just a bit.
So I'm like, okay, I'm done. I can't control the throttle pedal anymore.
How on earth did you win that title that year?
So I was lucky that there was a straight line after that, and I could just plow my whole leg down into the throttle, so I didn't have to use my my ankle, because that was out of control. That was unusable. So I could plow my whole leg down, and that gave me those 10 seconds to regain a little bit of control to get going again.
Just looking at what we're talking about, we've talked a lot about the championship, what's going to happen going into the race this weekend, what's going to happen going into qualifying. Did you suspect going into the race that would be Lewis's strategy? Did you suspect that he might push you into the pack? And that
I wasn't thinking much at all. You know, I was expecting everything and more. So. No idea.
You just had to deal with it at the time.
Yeah. You can't plan for everything.
Yeah, of course.
See, but that's Bernie's job, to try and plan for everything. You know this. You realise that could happen again on Sunday, that we might get that sort of a race. And if you're Max and you're Oscar, that might just be the best way to go and plan your race if you're out in front, which makes qualifying so important later on today.
Our qualifying is huge today, and that's what makes it so bad for Lando. He knows how important this qualifying is. I have to say, though, as I said before, that I'm so impressed with Lando so far, because I was not able to drive properly a racing car from the get-go of this weekend, but he's hit the ground really running, very confident, very fast, very impressive so far, because that's what we have our eye on, you know, is Lando, are those mistakes going to creep in once again, you know, with Lando when the pressure is just at the highest ever.
Well, let's talk to his boss, shall we? Zach Brown, CEO at McLaren, is on the pit wall for us. Zach, we're impressed from the outside. Give us an inside view as to how Lando and to how Oscar are feeling after one day of driving so far this weekend.
I'm impressed as well. They are more relaxed than I've ever seen them. They are enjoying the pressure of the World Championship battle here. We had a great team barbecue, what was it, 2 nights ago, and their speeches were great. And I think everyone's very excited for qualifying and tomorrow.
Allow me to correct you there, Zach. They're not enjoying this. This is super massively the most intense moment of their life in racing. That's not enjoyable. But anyways, we'll leave it. We'll leave it at those 2 different points of view.
I said it looks like they're enjoying it.
Oh, that's okay.
You know better than I. Yeah,
important distinguishment there in that word. Okay, so a lot of Hollywood going on there. Anyways, Zach, how have you tried to help them? I know you've cut us as media off, for example. We are not allowed to have access to them this weekend, and I fully understand that. That's because you really want to help them have their 100% focus and energy in this insane moment. What else have you done internally?
Yeah, we got to keep them away from you bad guys. No, just trying to trying to pretend like there's not a lot at stake, right? But as you know, and as you correctly say, of course there is. Just trying to keep them very focused, very relaxed, not trying to overwork them with sponsor commitments, media commitments, and then while Andrea takes the technical approach to the weekend, I'm kind of the fun guy, so just trying to keep everything a bit lighthearted.
Hello, Zach. It's Bernie. So speaking of the fun guy, obviously on the pit wall there, we speak a lot about the drivers, how they feel going into this weekend. But for a lot of the engineers, which we've both worked with yourself, this is the first time you've been in this position where there's potentially a drivers' championship on the line. How do you maintain across the pit wall the calmness that's needed to make the big decisions through the weekend?
Yeah, it's my nature. I can be, as sport is, emotional and excitable, but trying to keep that all under control, recognizing that got to provide some leadership here and some calmness. But the team's remarkably calm. It was the same thing last year when we had so much at stake for the constructors championship. Everyone was remarkably calm. So it's I don't want to say it's easy, but we're very focused, and what we recognize is bringing any emotion to pit wall will not be productive. So just staying very focused.
From within the team, Zach, just finally from me, you wrapped up the constructors title in Singapore. Is that more important for the team? Or, visually, is a drivers' championship more important? Because as fans of the sport, we tend to focus more on the drivers. Obviously, the prize money comes from the constructors.
Yeah, it's all of the above for us. I know some people it's an either or mindset, but for us, we want both. We think we can get both. The best way to win the constructors is to have two drivers competing for the World Championship, which is what we have. So we're a little bit greedy and think it's not an either or. It's let's go for both, and so far we're in a good position.
Best of luck this weekend. Zach, thanks ever so much for joining us and giving us that insight. We've got Laura Mekis that we can talk to as well on the Red Bull pit wall. Best of luck to Red Bull in this championship battle too. And we'll get a chance to talk to Laura, and he's just a little bit busy at the moment. So Lando Norris then is out on the track. So far, Pierre Gasly and Franco Colapinto have completed laps. Charles Leclerc has just come out onto the track as well. A time of a 1:23.4 from Oscar Piastri was the fastest FP3 time last year. Based on yesterday, Oscar Piastri could do with a much better final practice to give him a bit of momentum, confidence going into qualifying. He was a little off the pace in yesterday evening's session.
Yeah, they in hindsight now, they made a huge mistake to make it this weekend where he has to give up his car in FP1.
I guess when he's 104 points ahead after Zandvoort, then, or Max Verstappen at that stage, you kind of think it might not go down to the wire at that stage. Right?
No, Orlando was still right in there. I mean, it's just a mistake, and I wonder if Oscar was attentive enough to those details at the time, or if because he does have sometimes the attitude of I'll let the team get on with it, which is pro and it helps sometimes, but sometimes it's not ideal. Yesterday he was on the back foot massively, so it's not going to be easy for him to come back from yesterday's free practice and find that necessary rhythm, especially when Lando is driving so amazingly. Even though I still think Lando he's going to have to lose a bit of performance along the way as the pressure rises. You just cannot perform at 100% under that kind of pressure once you get to the last lap of qualifying.
Yeah, I get the point, but I know that Piastri was on the back foot during P2, but the decision about who missed P1 was probably making pre-season, and I think the majority of drivers, given how much we drive in Abu Dhabi, that is one of the preferred tracks to give up a P1. And if you look at it from a statistics point and engineering point of view, there's 24 races in this championship. They're all worth the same number of points. So he's given up a race at the end of the year. The decision's been made very early in the year. So I think for most of the drivers, their preference would have been to lose Abu Dhabi as a P1 session, and he'll get back on that. But I I don't necessarily see it as a mistake from the team or Piastri side. There was 23 other races that the point should have been on the board.
Very, very good argument, Bernie. I'll go with what you said, actually, this time. That was very strong.
Lando crosses the line, 1:24.7 for the man who missed 2 FP1 sessions earlier this season and got pole in the win in both of those weekends when that happened. We're on board now with Charles Leclerc, and Ferrari too could do with a bit of pace to finish the season on a high. They'll be 4th in the Constructors' Championship. It has been a disappointment, to say the least, for a team that were coming into this race last year with a chance of being Constructors' champions. And Charles Leclerc is on course for a 4th winless season in 7 years with Ferrari, and he finishes that lap a second off the pace, being set by Lando Norris currently. Esteban Ocon and Lewis Hamilton have just taken to the track. There's a lot still in the garage. This was Lando Norris's lap down into the hairpin. Just a little twitchy on the exit there. No lock-up in the process. Yeah, this is very Formula One, this, isn't it? You know, we're all pumped up, we're excited for the green light, and then just sit around and wait. They need more tyres for this session, Bernie. That's what they need.
Well, yeah, it's a
And
real
another
balance. It's a real balance, isn't it, between the number of tyres they have over the weekend. I think it has improved. You know, the current regulations having 2 sets effectively for each session. The way it's ended up today, most people are going to run this session 2 sets of soft tyres, so limited laps.
That was exactly the same yesterday with Lewis.
I was just going to say...
Turn 1 and going wide.
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's see if he can... let's see if he's improved his car from yesterday, and let's see if he can put it together today. And turn 1 immediately already off track, which I think the time's going to be deleted. Missed the apex there by 4 meters in turn. What is that one called?
The hairpin, 5.
Yeah, 5. So rough start here for Lewis.
But the car just was doing that yesterday as well.
Yeah.
Lewis has done enough laps here to make me think that isn't driver error going that far wide. That's just a car that's not sticking to the ground for him.
No, sure, absolutely. The car is just not good. It's not performing well. It's difficult to drive, and Lewis is particularly struggling with that, even more so than Charles.
Better middle sector. This is turn 9. Track obviously has changed in the last few years from 2020. Where we used to have 2 chicanes down the 2 back straights. Now we go into the it's like a long parabolica, isn't it? It's turn 9. The marina section is pretty unchanged. This corner that Lewis has just gone through, turn 14, that's still a horror of a corner, and you could easily find yourself being drawn into the barriers there. Nice wide line on the outskirts of turn 1, and he's half a second down on Lando Norris when he crosses the line.
Yeah, it's his Achilles heel this weekend, is that last sector. And the last sector is rear tires overheating, because you have what's that corner called? An 8, 9, the long one, 9,
yep.
9, the long one there, the long fast one. The rears just overheat massively, and then you come into that whole last section through that super fast double left, which is flat out. By then your rears are blazing hot, because in high-speed corners that's where the most energy goes into the tires, and where you're heating up those tires massively. And then you go into the slow stuff, and you just don't have traction anymore because the rear tires are way too hot, and he's struggling with that. And again today it looks the same.
Achilles heel.
Yes,
It's more like an Achilles wheel, isn't it, really?
Achilles wheel.
Yeah.
That's a strong one.
Yeah, because like,
Let's keep that one in mind.
got wheels on his car, right?
Save your terrible jokes for Christmas.
Christmas is coming, Bern. Christmas is coming. 6th of December. We're still not finished.
That's not when Christmas is. Anyway, I was just going to pick up on Nico's point. You know, it is very important here, the balance between the internal temperature of the tyres and the surface temperature of the tyres. That's what produces the grip in these, particularly in these soft tyres. They're very, very delicate to that balance. And little overheating, running wide, any sort of lock-ups, very detrimental to what happens in the following corners after that.
Here's Lance Stroll. 3rd fastest, half a second down in the Aston Martin for Lance Stroll, pointless in the last 8 Grand Prix weekends. A bit like last year, he finished the last 11 rounds without scoring a point as well. Yuki Tsunoda currently on a flying lap, going rather well. So we've got some more cars out on the track, including this man, Yuki Tsunoda, in his last race with the Red Bull team, and his 111th start, which makes him the most experienced Japanese driver ever. He's a 10th and a half down on Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri on his first flying lap. Lando Norris just starting his second push lap of this session. Let's see where Oscar Piastri is when he crosses the line. It's a little bit outside his teammate, 4/10 down.
He was okay in the beginning of the lap, and then just lost a lot of time as the lap went on. Oof, that didn't look good for Lando either. Massive oversteer.
Yeah, just looking here in comparison, 17.4, not bad to start with, 36.7 and a 30.9 for his next two sectors. And Lando Norris on this lap, finding 3/10 on Oscar Piastri already for through the first couple of sectors on this one. We've got Lewis Hamilton in 4th after completing just one push lap, and then heading back into the garage. Pierre Gasly is 6th. Don't discount Pierre Gasly for a top 10 start, at least, Q3 in the last two race weekends. And he started 5th, I think, on the grid here last year. He did. Norris crosses the line, didn't improve in the final sector, which makes me wonder if the tyre's taken a bit of a punishment by that.
Yeah, but he still improved his lap time, right, by 2/10 and a bit. So he's looking really strong again from the get-go here today. But it looked like a bad lap, actually, because of so much oversteer. Look here. Look at this big snap coming out here now. Massive oversteer. Well, look at the counter steering on the steering wheel. Yeah, massive oversteer. That's not fast to drive like that, you know, because you lose a lot of time. You have to lift off the throttle. You overheat those rear tires. But still, lap time-wise, it's looking good again.
What's inducing that oversteer?
So it's temperatures, because last night they were practicing with very low temperatures, and now it's the hottest it's been this weekend. Where did you say track temperatures were? 38. And what happens when track temperature is higher is just rear grip. That's the main one. You lose rear grip, which makes it very difficult for them, and that's the usual challenge here this weekend. The setup required to go fast at the moment out there is very different to the setup required then for qualifying, as the grip comes up and as the track temperature drops. I remember in my time it was usually 2 front bars that you could go softer as you were going to qualifying. So you could give the front more grip, just because the rear also had more grip due to lower temperatures, which is quite a big step, you know, and that's always a little bit of an unknown.
But you don't want to make too many changes right now, because
Exactly.
it's very different when you go qualifying later. Right, Ted, some parish notices. You hinted at a couple of drivers who went AWOL yesterday when they should have been entertaining the fans, and I think someone's broke the curfew as well last night.
Well, 4 teams broke the curfew because this is the last chance they have to break it, and if they've got a joker left in their pack, then why not? So Aston Martin, Alpine, Racing Bulls and Williams, they all just were leisurely, Crofty, in not going home when they were told to, having the mechanics here when they were supposed to be taking a break, and taking their time to prepare their cars for today. So they broke the curfew, but nothing happens to them because it's one of their 2 accepted times for the season. And Aston Martin have been fined 25...
Oh, sorry, Ted.
Sorry.
I'm just going to break in there, because we were just seeing a little replay of Yuki Tsunoda, what's the word I'm looking for, dawdling on the racing line, and Lando Norris approaching him at a rate of knots. Now, Yuki has said sorry, and obviously didn't realise Lando was there, but we keep saying it, keep off the racing line if you're doing that sort of speeds. That, Nico, could have been really nasty.
That was very, very dangerous, because it's a blind corner. You come through there completely blind, and there's Yuki in the middle just going slowly, which in itself is a bit of a very strange thing to do. That will definitely be reported to the stewards, because it was very dangerous.
Yeah. Wow, that was great reactions there from Lando Norris to avoid, Bernie, what could have been to say a car braking incident, putting it mildly.
Yeah, you know, if something happens to the car this early in the session, you've damaged the car, you will put on pieces. You might have to change something like the floor. Now, we think from the outside, surely that's changing one component for another component. The setup of those is so difficult. You just don't want that going into qualifying. You don't want to miss the laps in this session, and you don't want to have to replace what at this stage of the year is probably a substandard part. You're getting to the bottom of the pile of spares, the team, because of the cost cap, not sitting with lots of stuff in the box. So yeah, very lucky to get away with that. And those sections of the track here, GPS very poor, radio comms is very poor, but that means you should just be on it. You should be off the racing line, like you said, Crofty.
As a driver, you know when you're on the racing line or not, and you should be using your mirrors or at least keeping to the side. Right, Ted, Max Verstappen on a flying lap here. We'll watch that. You can go back to the parish notices.
Well, just quickly, because looks like Verstappen's going to go top of the timings, and that will give us some clue as to whether he's found that speed. Aston Martin were fined 25 grand, but had 15 grand of it suspended, and that's for each car for missing the appearance in the fan forum. And Aston Martin have promised to give out some signed caps to anyone wearing Aston Martin gear. So if you're here at the circuit listening to this, then get down there and invite 2 lucky people into the Aston Martin garage for a sort of fan engagement to make up for their drivers missing the event.
All of which is lovely. The drivers should have been there in the first place. But what I don't get is why they've had to pay 20 grand for missing a fan engagement, where we see things like unsafe releases in practice from pit stops, which could be very dangerous, attracting something only like a 5 grand fine. It seems a bit disproportionate in the side of we should be thinking about safety and a bigger deterrent for some of these ongoing situations in the pit lane. Yeah,
I was just thinking, Crofty, if I'd stood around waiting to see Lance Stroll or Fernando Alonso, I'd be pretty upset with my sign cap in place of that, because, you know, there's a lot of fans here that really want to see the drivers, are really passionate about seeing the drivers. That's what we're here for. So, yeah, depending on how big the queue was or how long I waited, that's a bit...
They should be there, but 20 grand seems a lot when it's,
well,
you know,
I think
not as much for other things.
That's the reason, you know. The drivers, they're all very highly paid, the teams. If you can just get out of it with a very small fine, then we want to highly discourage drivers from doing that. We want the fine to be significant enough that not week in, week out, they just say, I'm not feeling great, or I can't be bothered, or whatever. We want, you know, we need to embrace the fans that are here at the track, the people that have paid money to come and stand and queue for the drivers. So I think the fine needs to be quite high. So the question might be, is the fine for an unsafe release not high enough?
Exactly.
You know, maybe the other way around. And I'll pass on that one, but I think the fine for an unsafe release needs to be very relative to what caused unsafe release, and why, and how dangerous it actually was at the end.
One thing the drivers did all turn up to, Nico, this week was the dinner, the driver dinner, kind of the last supper before the end of the season. I mean, what a gorgeous bunch they are. If you look to your right, you can be a body language expert and see how happy they all are. Is it true Pierre Gasly picked up the tab for it?
I don't know if that's true or not, but when I counted, I only counted 17 drivers, so there must be some fines for not attending team dinners as well.
Yeah, I thought they were all there. Were you doing that in 2016?
A little bit sometimes, but not really regularly, but it's a really nice thing to do, isn't it? I think it's great that the drivers get together. It's also a nice sign towards the fans, that F1 is a family, and I think it's fantastic.
4 years ago here, you might not have had Lewis and Max stood next to each other, posing for the photo there. Gabriel Bortoletto next to his mate and mentor Max, Oscar Piastri, separated from Lando Norris by George Russell. I hope they all had a really great night, and if Pierre Gasly did pick up the tab, I hope he's got a receipt and he can put it on expenses.
He's probably not submitting that on expenses, is he? But, no, it's brilliant that, you know, and like Nico says, we spend so much of the calendar year together at these times. So 24 races.
Mate, honestly,
yeah, I was sitting in the middle. Probably didn't get goal.
Like, middle of the track. Literally middle of the track.
Yeah, it was the middle of the track. Looked like Esteban Ocon to me as well. And this is where the race engineers have to be very much on it. Hulkenberg, Lance and Fernando didn't attend the drivers' dinner. You counted 17 correctly.
I can still count. That's good to know, isn't it?
Fernando again, huh?
Yeah, well, he's
missing these things.
Obviously had
And but can we just say that there's a remote chance that Fernando can be world champion next year?
Yes.
They have Adrian Newey, the greatest designer of all time, who's done nothing else the last 12 months than being tucked into the factory there, designing this new car to these new regulations. Who knows, no? It could be...
I'll counter that with 9 months because we started in March.
Officially, right?
Officially.
How about unofficially?
I have no idea. He might have been doodling.
So let's say let's find some middle ground between our numbers, right, Crofty?
10 months.
10 months.
Let's go for 10.5.
And the engine, we're led to believe, is a little bit behind on development. When Honda disbanded, a lot of their staff, went off and did other projects. They've had to get the old band back together again. That caused maybe a few delays. I'd say Fernando Alonso would have a much better chance in 2027 if he's still around, which he may well be, because you know what? He's driving well enough, I think, to still deserve his place on that grid.
Well, I'd say that next year, if we have a total reset, all 22 drivers have potentially a chance to be world champion at the beginning of the year. They all start in 0. I had to correct this up there. I think that, I think the Adrian Newey is very exciting there. Fernando's clearly still very driven in terms of driving. He does get everything out of the car. But there's big challenges there. The engine, as you mentioned.
Whoa, there's a big challenge. That's Lewis Hamilton into the barriers. And Hamilton at turn 9 has gone off. We've already talked about how difficult that car looks to drive.
Crofty, he's trying to put in reverse. Should we tell him he's missing a tire?
I think so. Anyway, they've red flagged it. He doesn't need to put it in reverse now.
Hopefully he's okay anyways, first of all, because that was a pretty big one.
Well, turn 9, that's what, 110 miles an hour, that corner.
But it looks okay. It looks okay, because he's gone in forwards. It should be fine.
Ooh, what happened there? Fred Vasseur just stares impassively at the monitor, thinking the sooner this season finishes, the better. And Lewis Hamilton making his way towards turn 9. That car's just got away from him there. You're shaking your head in the commentary box.
No, it's just rough. Oh, but I have to say, he was really going well until that point in time. It starts on the entry already. It starts with bottoming as he was turning in. That already loosened up the rear. And then it just had a follow-on effect. Let's look from the onboard. Let's look at the steering wheel also. So you see this bumping here. Yeah, he's already loose right in the beginning. Which can be aero mainly.
Something buckled at the front and snapped the rear.
Yeah. So he literally thinks something broke or something.
Yeah, I was trying to look to see if the front left locked as he was going over the white line or the curb or something there, but I don't think he'd even got that far at the point that he loses the car. And then, like you say, he goes in largely front end on, but slightly to the front right. So that front right suspension, as you can see, pretty badly damaged there. So even if they get the car back into the garage in this session, which is not a guarantee, because they put it on the truck and it sometimes goes back to close to the garage, which doesn't make its way down the pit lane, then there's a lot of work on that front right corner that I don't think is going to get that car out before the end of the session.
Most successful driver here at the Yas Marina circuit with 5 wins and 5 poles, and Lewis Hamilton is picking up pieces of his front wing, putting them back into the cockpit, and that is his session, I would imagine, done, and a red flag stopping everything. Massive applause for Lewis as he makes his way away from his car. And if you're Charles Leclerc, you're sat there thinking, right, please, let's just analyse what happened there. And if it was something mechanical, I'd like to know about that before I go out, because the same thing could happen to me.
Yeah, of course. You definitely want the team to have a very quick look and see if there's something to be learned. It can also just be rear brake balance too far rearwards. That can also be the case. But it looks to me, it starts with the bottoming. You can see before turning in here, look at the sparks flying. You see sparks flying? So sparks are flying, big bottoming. That just puts the car, steps out on the rears overheat, and you start to lose downforce as well as you get more yaw in the car. The underfloor downforce doesn't work as well immediately. And then you just have no chance, and you lose it. You just see it just goes, no chance. And he's still bouncing now. These cars are just, I think, very, very hard to drive. Harder than the cars in my time.
I think they're super sensitive to any changes in ride height, like you say, so, which is why we had all the problems with porpoising. But it doesn't look like anything breaks in that front left suspension or anything before. It just it's the bouncing, like you say.
Yeah. It's just bouncing, and that's horrible for a driver's confidence. It's just, you know, it's the last thing he will have experienced now before going into qualifying, where you need to be ultra committed. And that's just horrible, because it's not something that you can...
Oi! I was just hoping at the radio about setup sort of a crash.
Yeah, and I'm sure George will want to know how his former teammate is doing as well. There he is, on his way on the back of a scooter back to the paddock. It will take a while to wind his way around past the expensive yachts and the expensive yacht parties.
Yeah, like I was saying, Crofty, whenever you have an accident like that in this P3 session, generally at this stage you're running the best of whatever that you can have in the car, the best floor, the best front wing, all these things. Depending on how the team has progressed through the year, you will have a preferred front wing because it might be a little bit lighter, it might be a little bit stronger in certain downforce, but all of those things mean that you may be reverting to something that's not exactly what you would have chosen to put on that car for quality. It's small differences, very small differences, but it's not ideally what they would have potentially ran.
I mean, that looks like a huge amount of damage there, but that isn't. That's not a massive fix.
No, that'll be fine. I mean, they're not going to get it out for the session, but easily for qualifying.
Oh dear. That was the lady there, just putting her sunglasses back on, who was videoing Lewis Hamilton and then was looking like, oh, what's going on here? As Lewis went and had his crash. So it says yellow flag. The track is clear, and well, the barriers are clear from the car. They're just making sure it's put into a safe place, and then we'll get a resumption time. So we're technically still in a red flag situation. We have no resumption time as yet as to when we can get going again, but hopefully it's coming soon. Most successful driver here in Abu Dhabi is Lewis Hamilton, and something on his car caused it to bounce, snap, and he lost control. Nothing he could do about that.
Oi! I was just hoping at the radio about setup sort of a crash.
So yeah, let's just take a look at that with thanks to the SkyPad, where we can slow it all down. One other thing that we haven't noticed just yet is that there's another car in front of Lewis before he approaches the corner, and actually continues to catch that car on the approach. So don't forget, that's going to be kicking up all of that turbulent air coming off the back of it, and that's another potential contributing factor to how you lose control at such a high-speed corner on the track. Then the other thing to look out for is, like Nico picked up on, is he's using quite a bit of this curb on the outside. It is you see this dip, this channel in the middle of it for drainage, and that can sometimes pull the car in towards that part, and also lower the ride height as you dip down. Just try and get the right tool there as it dips downwards and then up on the other side. Obviously I've drawn a more extreme version of what that curb's doing there, but as you go into that little gully, it can lower the car and actually create this moment here where it essentially creates like this ridge in the road, and that's where more bottoming could have come from. And if I go to the off-board shot, actually I'll stay on the onboard for now, because I'm just watching this right front wheel. I'll play it in slow motion for you, as slow as we can go. As far as I can see, there's nothing that's buckling on the right. That's the oversteer kicking in there. Everything looks okay. That's the suspension now on both sides going up and down, and of course when it goes into the wall, you're not going to be able to tell now. The damage is done to the right front, so their post-session investigation is going to be a lot more difficult because it's all destroyed anyway on that right front. But if I go to the off-board shot, you're going to see what I mean about how it coincides with the bottoming of the car and the fact it sparks. Just forward him on to that moment. So yeah, the sparks actually start when he's on the curbs. It's not happening there. It happens. That's the first part we see, that one tiny spark getting kicked up there. It's the first telltale sign that he's ventured onto the curb and lowered the car's ride height just before turning into the corner. And I think the combination of that high-speed corner and the turbulence of the car in front, on top of the balance not being great as well. I think all those things went against him there. Now we've got Leclerc here. I haven't seen this clip yet, so I wanted to see where Leclerc is placing his car before that corner as well. Is he using that curb? I would say not quite as much. At least it's not to the point where it's potentially bottoming the car out. So you can see that where that white line is as a reference. So I go back to the onboard of Lewis now. And let's see if we roll him back up to this line. Yeah, look, he's definitely got more of that white line in the middle of his car. Whereas Leclerc, it was kind of more, the white line was there. So his car was more over to the left-hand side. It could be that. The sparks, I feel, were definitely coming from this curb. And he's got that car in front of him with the turbulence. So that's my investigative piece done. Back to you, Crofty.
Easy for you to say, Detective Davidson. Thank you very much. 91 Grand Prix in the ground effect era, 2 wins and a pole for Lewis Hamilton in those 91 Grand Prix. And he has made no secret, Nico, of the fact that he'd quite like to see the back of these cars, quite frankly.
Yes, indeed, yes. It's first of all, great job, Ant, on that investigation. That looked very, very smart.
This is very thorough.
Yes, very thorough, and could be the case. Actually, you should be writing that to Lewis, because it's not so easy to identify that, and he might miss something like that. So that's the extent of that, how in-depth that investigation was. And for Lewis, yeah, no, I mean, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare, and he cannot wait to get out of this car, and has hope that next year's car can bring him back in a way.
Absolutely. Ted, we got a resumption. 1 minute, 45 seconds to go.
And everybody absolutely scampers out of the pits to queue up at the end of the pit lane, under 20 minutes to go. So they need to get on with it. Just hearing from Marc Genet, who works with the Ferrari team, is telling us that what Ferrari is saying is that they just the car back, need to talk to Lewis, need to have a look at the back just to rule out that it's any kind of mechanical failure that's spun him off and into the barrier, or whether it is just the bottoming out, as Anthony suggests. But yeah, just the worst possible outcome for Lewis going into qualifying. All he wanted from this weekend was just to have a positive weekend, just to get out of the sort of spiral of bad results, have a positive weekend, make it into Q3. That's not to say he can't do it, but how much they have to lift the car up, Crofty, to make sure it doesn't bottom out again might hurt their competitiveness into qualifying. We'll have to follow that.
If Ant is right and it was caused by Lewis just going a bit further over on the curb, that might be better for Ferrari, that actually that was the cause, not that the car was going to bottom out anyway. But they've got a post-session briefing to attend to on that one to put things right. Just time to clear up something. You remember the Lando Norris-Yuki Tsunoda incident where Lando had to move quite rapidly at the last minute to avoid hitting Yuki Tsunoda. That's going to be investigated by the stewards after this session. So
there was another incident.
With Gasly and Ocon.
No, you chucked a whole bottle of water onto all your notes. And dear audience, you have no idea. Crofty's notes, it's like 1 page and it's rammed. You need a microscope to read them. And that 1 page is flooded.
Yeah.
And it's unreadable. Yeah. So
we got a water situation.
We had a very, you can be happy that the microphones were off. Because we had a very, very angry Crofty here in light of that incident.
Water way to finish the year. Honestly, Nick, I might be up late tonight redoing those notes, my friend. This is not how I was celebrating. I was going to go and see Metallica tonight.
No, Metallica's cancelled.
Metallica might be cancelled.
It's going to be note-taking evening.
I mean, I'll hold them up to the camera. I'll hold them up to the camera if you can see it. Look, we've got water damage all down there. I mean, honestly, Mark, our sound supervisor, might actually have to go and dry those out in the sunshine. That's his lunch break cancelled as well, to be fair. Right, Alex Albon's been noted for an unsafe release. So that might get investigated. Bernie Collins has got a notebook out.
I'm keeping mine well away from the desk and from you, just that's all. I'm just trying to hold it as close to me as I can.
We've got like a puddle on the desk in front of me here as well. And this, Bernie, could be a very busy 16 minutes to come.
Yeah, exactly. I was just trying to work out. Just watch this.
That's Alex Albon in front, behind Carlos Sainz. Was that an unsafe release?
I think we need to see who's behind him, really. This is the angle.
Well, we haven't seen anything at the moment. Is he coming soon? Oh.
Hard to tell from those two, I would say, Crofty. But those things in this session tend to be got away with anyway, because the cars are coming out. Basically what happens for people that don't watch all the time, but the cars aren't allowed to leave the garage until we have a restart time. And what you can see there in advance of that restart time was everyone's in the garage fired up, hands held to stop them leaving, trying to get out as quickly as possible, because they're all trying to vie for a little bit of clear space, try and get the laps in. Like you say, there's only 15 minutes left on the clock now to get your final set of soft tyre. This is a final preparation for qualifying. It's the closest temperature, although the track temperature's only dropped to 37. This is the best chance of making sure that your car is as good as it can possibly be for qualifying, and that red flag means that the time they have to do it is quite limited.
So here's the man that's fastest there, Max Verstappen, about 6/100ths of a second clear of Lance Stroll, which is a decent lap there from Lance. We don't know fuel loads, we don't know engine modes, but only 6/100ths of a second between Verstappen and Stroll. Ollie Behrman, who was going well yesterday, is within a 10th of Verstappen as well. Lewis Hamilton won't be taking part after that crash. Charles Leclerc 5th fastest, Hamilton just a couple of tenths down. Now Lando Norris just under 3 tenths down, set his lap time an awful lot earlier. Oscar Piastri did too. Piastri finds himself 8 tenths off the pace here, Nico, and down in P15, which, you know, if that's his form going into qualifying at this stage, that's a worry, but he's got 14 minutes to do something about that.
He is very worried at this stage, because so far this whole weekend has just gone very poorly, and he now has, exactly as you say, 14 minutes to try and turn that around. This is the last chance, because you're not going to find massive performance in qualifying anymore. It's now that you have to learn, build up that confidence, find the right car balance. This is critical.
So here's Ollie Behrman on a flying lap, not improving through the middle sector on this lap, but getting some improvement during the first sector. I would imagine, Nico, all drivers fueled certainly enough for 2 flying laps between now and the checkered flag, and with a bit more fuel on top, because they might still want to disguise what their true pace actually is.
Usually it's 20 kilograms. 20 kilograms, which is a little bit of a disguise, and it gives you that flexibility to do kind of as many laps as you'll need. So that's what it is. But this is the moment where you could be a Max Verstappen and drop it to 10 kilograms to play some mind games, you know, and he has nothing to lose. So throw everything at it.
You mean a Max Verstappen who's just on a 17.0 for the first sector, which is the best we've seen so far?
Maybe it's 10 kilograms.
That would definitely help improve the first sector performance.
It certainly would. Right, Piastri is just making his way around the final corner to start his flying lap. Here comes George Russell to ends and only go P13. So there's maybe a bit more pace he needs to find as well. Antonelli crosses the line, goes a P15. And Isaac Hadjar is having engine setting issues as Verstappen goes quickest still by an extra 1/10 of a second. Yuki Tsunoda pulls into the pits after doing the best middle sector, so we won't actually know what would have been his time. And Piastri now with a 17.0 in the first sector. We say he's got time to do something about it, and he's just nailed a really good first sector. Still 2 sectors to go. Here he goes, Nico. Take us through the rest of this.
Yeah, so super awesome start to the lap. No traffic ahead of him. Let's see that he doesn't take too much curb on the entry here and doesn't do a Hamilton. Very conservative. You saw how he stayed away from it there. So perhaps Santa's absolutely right. Great momentum through there. This is a good lap, but of course the reference is not the highest reference yet. The others are still going to go faster. Massive traffic here, but looking very solid there, carrying the speed. A bit of oversteer coming now. The rear is starting to slide out a little bit, but no mistakes there. And let's see how he gets through the last corner again. No traffic. Yep, good car balance. Nailed the exit there. Very clean lap.
And
not bad.
Destroys Max Verstappen's time there. Moves into the mid 123s, Bernie.
Yeah, I was just going to come in, Crofty. I was interested to hear you say Russell had only gone P13. You think that's not what we're expecting at this stage. But some people appear to have gone out on the used soft that they were previously on. So Russell's actually on a used soft, whereas that lap for Piastri was on the new one. So I expect that at some point Russell will come into the pit lane and get that final send-off. But only 11 minutes to do it is really pushing it towards the end of the time that we have available in this P3.
And Lando Norris on a new set as well?
Yeah, new for Lando.
Okay, so we can compare like for like.
You can compare there, yeah, that's direct compare, that's good.
Which is a very important thing to do. That didn't look too steady through the chicane.
Big mistake. Took too much curb on the first one, and that really unsettled his car and start to overheat the rear as the rear starts to move. And then there was big rally driving in the next one, which is why I would have thought he would be more down than that. That's still decent. The problem is it kind of continues through the lap. Once you get rear tires too hot, it just keeps going and going. So it's going to be difficult for him to do a super strong last sector, but let's see. Looking clean, and this sector has been his strongest out of everybody so far this weekend. He's been mighty here.
You gain time here, but by not losing time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Here, the particular thing about that corner is you don't drive it normally in the last lap, in the last corner. You just go massively fast in, try and survive the exit, because the exit doesn't matter because you have the start-finish line coming right up. So you drive it very differently, beginning of lap to end of lap.
What was it you were saying about the final sector being brilliant for Lando Norris? 3/10 he picked up on his teammate in that final sector alone. It's only a 30-second sector as well.
Yeah, very impressive, yeah.
I think as well there, you know, as Nico talked through Piastri's lap, he had a lot more traffic through that final sector, and the way Lando Norris had set that up with the team, he had a very, very clear final sector, and that's so important in those corners to not have a car even 4 or 5 seconds ahead.
Down to Ted.
Kimi Antonelli has hit Yuki Tsunoda in the pit lane, has broken Kimi Antonelli's front wing. This is always going to happen with these guys pushing it really hardly. Now Max Verstappen's coming down the pit lane while their marshals trying to sort it out. It happened right in front of me, right in front of the Aston Martin garage. What a mess, and something Mercedes and Red Bull did not need. You're about to get some replays.
Earlier in the season, we had Max Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli tangling in the pit lane. Red Bull and Mercedes. We'll see what the pictures show us, but yeah, that did look like a fair amount of carbon fibre that had been scattered around. Alex Albon, by the way, his potential unsafe release is going to be investigated after the session. Meanwhile, there's a few cars. We saw Nico Hülkenberg in that final sector looking quite tough to handle at the moment. These soft tyres giving you plenty to think about in the final part of the lap if you've pushed too hard in the first 2/3. Ted, down to you again.
It will be an unsafe release for Mercedes and a big fine, because Kimi Antonelli just done a pit stop and was released into the path of Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki Tsunoda didn't brake, and then he just went into the side. Damaged quite a lot of Yuki Tsunoda's car as well, so I'm surprised to see Yuki Tsunoda is still circulating. He's got a big clonk to his side pod and his floor. So damaged car to the Red Bull too at a crucial time going into qualifying.
The stewards haven't got us on, so I can say this in the stewards' room, but I wonder if it'll be a €25,000 fine for an unsafe release, like it was for missing a fan event. Let's have a little look at that later, because that's the point I was trying to make. Sometimes these unsafe release fines well, they're not as much as if you miss a fan event. You shouldn't miss a fan event, but you should also deter people from just sending cars out without thinking too much.
And I think there should be a difference between an unsafe release. Just like watching this lap from Alonso looks very impressive. Let's see how it actually finishes off.
Not bad.
That's good. That is a purple first sector. But yeah, once you damage the side of another car on these sides, this is a practice session.
Yeah.
It's not the race we were trying to gain position. So to have damaged another car as significantly as Ted outlined there, that's not great for that team going into the remainder of the weekend, and that should be a reasonable penalty, I think. We've not seen it, but the stewards will look at whether Kimi Antonelli was given a green light, or whether he went in his own, or how the traffic was looking in the pit lane. But yeah, annoying to have a very avoidable accident at this stage of the weekend.
Track temperatures dropping a little bit by just about 1.5 degrees from the start of this session. The lap times continue to improve as the rubber is laid down too. 3/10 just under. Ollie Behrman behind Lando Norris. That's Kimi Antonelli coming out of the garage, and that was Yuki Tsunoda making his way down the pit lane. Nico, take us through your reaction here.
Yeah, that's rough. I wonder I don't know if Kimi could have done a little bit of
I have a massive crash.
Have you got damage?
I think so. I mean, he had the damage, so by the side of the side point.
I don't know if Kimi could have at least thrown a glance across. He doesn't. Oh, he does actually.
He does.
But too late, huh? But you do also trust your mechanic.
Straight out.
Man, you told me yes, and Tsunoda was coming.
I think I picked it up incorrectly from Ted maybe, but they're both being released from the garage. And I think at the point that they've told Kimi to go, they weren't expecting Yuki to be driving out of his garage as well. So both the call from Bono, who's in the garage in this session, I think, and his front end or his #1 mechanic have told him to go without realising that Tsunoda's also going, and maybe Tsunoda's release from the garage was a little bit quicker. But in those sessions, it's tricky, but you need to be ready to stop the car at any point when they leave.
Yeah, I agree. Max Verstappen about to go third fastest, so he blitzed the first sector and then the tyres didn't hold on. George Russell on the new tyres now has gone quickest. Give us a quick reaction, then you're going back to the paddock.
Yeah, awesome. Max, a little bit of setback for Max here. But George, wow, where did that pace come from? And that's the kind of thing that can throw the spanners into the championship if suddenly a George is right up there in the mix. That's exactly what we want, isn't it? I mean, except for if you're a Lando Norris fan, but...
Correct. Spanners thrown. Nico, thank you, mate. You've got to go to the paddock. You best get your trainers on and sprint down there. So we've got Russell from Norris, from Verstappen, and Piastri, 2.5 tenths separating the top four. I want to see Bernie Collins with that unsafe release. I want to see the on-board again with Kimi Antonelli from the front. Now, I think Yuki has been released before. That is not at the same time, and you can see why Yuki's session is over now with all that damage there. But Yuki's been released, I think, a fair time ahead of Kimi, so that they might have seen that. And I want to just see this, the forward-facing on board from the Mercedes, so you can see what Kimi Antonelli's view was as he came out the garage. Yes, he was released and told to go straight out, and that was all the damage in the pit lane, but could he see the Red Bull ahead of him?
Yeah, I think what we need is almost the overhead camera that we often have in the pit lane. Would be really useful to see the release of both cars, and the teams that go through a lot, they've got their in-garage camera and they'll have all of the onboards as well to go through. But I guess the big thing to point out, Crofty, was that was Yuki going out on his new soft tyre. So yes, there's the damage to the car that they're going to need to repair, which is one thing, but also he hasn't got the lap he needed it.
The problem is for the car still jumps. Like I can't see my feet on the pedals.
So in terms of, have Red Bull, have they a need to go for extra pace here, and that's causing a touch of porpoising too? And often, out-and-out speed isn't the fastest way to set up these ground effect cars, because you induce the porpoising. But do they need to do that to think, you know, that they, in doing so, they can stay ahead of the two McLarens during the course of this weekend? Are they pushing it to that knife edge where dialing back in the long run might be a little bit better? We'll see. Hulkenberg crosses the line, stays 10th fastest. Piastri's improved in the middle sector. Norris has improved in the first sector. Here's Piastri to cross the line, stays 4th fastest. Antonelli with the first two sectors done, only a 10th off the pace, and Lando Norris continues on his way towards the chicane at turn 6.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. This is Kimi's first run on that, on his soft tyre, on any soft tyre actually, because he ran in medium first. So it'd be good to see a time on the board for him. Obviously, they've been fit to just change the front wing. That would seem to be the only damage to his car, and get him back out again, which is vital. Let's see how this lap. Bit wide at the exit. It
was a touch wide at the exit, even though that wide line is nice and wide and allows you to do that.
Yeah, just to pick up on the Verstappen comment, I wondered, you know, given what Nico had said earlier with the nervousness in his leg and not being able to keep his foot engaged with the throttle, you know, these throttles are so sensitive in these cars, and we do lots of things. We put in like a damper behind the throttle in order to try and balance it, so it always returns to its position, so it's sort of, the throttle pedal pushes against your foot a little bit, but still any sort of movement on that throttle will be picked up by the engine and therefore lead to not as smooth a drive as you like.
Just 4/1000ths of a second between George Russell and Lando Norris. That last lap of Lando Norris's wasn't his best in this session. Lewis Hamilton was 4th fastest when he had his crash. He's now down in P18. given the improvement in the track and the times as well in the last 20 minutes or so. Someone had a bit of a moment and ran wide towards the end of the lap, but that was quickly sorted out.
Verstappen's going very slowly in that sector, but I don't know if he's just prepping for a lap or something's happening.
Is this for... Yeah. He was either prepping or he was waiting so that he could cross the line and just keep out of people's way. I'm not sure. He's crossed the line now. And we'll see if this is one more lap for Max Verstappen in terms of a push lap. We're on board with Carlos Sainz, who is a man who rather likes this place, it has to be said. Carlos Sainz has picked up a podium last season and a podium in 2021 as well. He was the other man on the podium in 2021, if you remember, with Lewis Hamilton, and with the champion that year, Max Verstappen. P12 for Carlos Sainz as he crosses the line. Checker flag is out. We'll get some practice starts on the grid, because you can't do it in the pit lane.
Yeah, you can't do it in the pit lane here. Very unusual pit lane here where it crosses under the track and you emerge sort of on the inside of turn 3. So that's a bit unusual because the pit lane, the garages here are actually on the outside of the track, which isn't that normal either. So this is a bit of an unusual pit exit, which is why we don't do starts in the pit lane and why the starts on the grid are very, very important for all of these cars to get data. And even though we've got different track temperatures here, different tires, different fuel loads, the system engineers within these teams can still take away the launch performance practice and how the cars are positioned in the throttle. And Verstappen really trying to make best use of this final lap that he's got in to get that. He's going to be the last person to cross the line on a flying lap, but can he improve?
No, is the answer to that. Stays just a 1/10.5 off the pace. You can hear the planks scraping on the ground there, and you can almost sense just a little bit of bumping and porpoising too. Max Verstappen, third fastest. You got to feel for his teammate Yuki Tsunoda, no fault of his own that he didn't get a chance to get that run in on the new soft tyres. After Kimi Antonelli was released into his path, the stewards will look at that after the session. Lunch cancelled, I think, in the stewards' room. They've got quite a bit to look at.
Yeah, they will be quite busy in terms of those unsafe releases, and they'll go through them in order, of course. And I think that one is, we didn't actually see any fallout from the one earlier for Albon, but that one's quite significant in terms of missing a lap for Yuki Tsunoda, the damage that's inflicted on the car. So that is something that they all need to learn from. But these guys are, it's a very wide pit lane here. You know, they've got almost double the depth that you would have in a normal pit lane of the concrete before you get to the fast lane. So maybe they've just been going a little bit quicker by the time they get to the fast lane compared to where they are.
So that is practice done then for this season. From now on in, every single revolution of the wheels counts. And on the pit wall for us this weekend, Laurent Mekies, team principal at Red Bull, Zach Brown, CEO at McLaren. Gentlemen, thank you so much for everything you've done and your teams have done this year to give us a lot to talk about. And I know you wanted to say a few words to each other before we get into the serious business. So Zach, over to you first.
Yeah, it's been a awesome year, and we're looking forward to Sunday. And we just wanted to ask Laurent what tires he thought he might start on tomorrow.
Lauren, you need to press your button. We can't quite hear you at the moment. Try that.
Yeah, it's been a great fight, and it's great for the fans. So super happy to be in it. Both teams have been doing an amazing jobs, and for the tires, we'll take the ultra soft that Pirelli has made just for us this weekend.
Zach, do you want to come back?
Strange, the same tire we're going to start on. It looks like it might be a good race.
I hope that you both enjoy this race, gentlemen, and qualifying too. May the best driver get pole. May the best driver win. Thank you once again. I hope you have a great night tonight and tomorrow.
Looking forward to it, and it's going to be a great race. Excited for the fans.
Indeed, great for the fans, and we'll enjoy it as well on this side.
Magnificent. Thank you so much. We will talk to you both again separately next time, but we just wanted to bring you two together as we try and bring the world of Formula One together for the, well, the decider in the desert. The dust up in the desert. Who knows where this championship will finish when the dust has settled? And whilst we're focusing on, is it Lando, is it Oscar, is it Max that's going to get pole, Mr. Saturday, George Russell, has come and taken the final honours for the final session of practice. And he's 4 1,000ths of a second faster than Lando Norris. And Max Verstappen is just over a 10th back. And Oscar Piastri, 2.5 tenths back, but that's as close as he's been to his teammate this weekend. That improvement for him has continued. Fernando Alonso's put himself in the mix, P4 there as well. Ollie Behrman's up there, P7. Kimi Antonelli's got to go and see the stewards. He crashed into Yuki Tsunoda in the pit lane. Yuki Tsunoda seemed to impede Lando Norris. They've got to see the stewards too. Alex Albon, who was 10th, has also got to see the stewards for an unsafe release, and then they can have lunch. And hopefully by that time, Ferrari put Lewis Hamilton's car together and we can get down to qualifying. Last 10 races here have been won from pole. How crucial will that be tonight?
Could be.